What's your limit? What do you think you can or can't do? This isn't some sort of new age urge for you to know the secret. I just want to know how deeply you've worked to figure out what you can even do. You don't need an answer, but my gut is that if you don't have any sort of idea, you probably haven't tried hard enough to feel out where your potential can even go. Maybe you haven't done it because you've never felt like an artist. Maybe you haven't done it because somebody criticized you when you were a kid and it killed whatever spark had been there. Maybe, I don't know, but maybe you haven't done it just because it's way easier to sit on the couch and medicate with ice cream, a bag of Doritos, the most recent Call of Duty, whatever. Everybody's got their thing.
What are you doing tonight?
Nothing.
Even for me, I spent my 20s doing not much of anything of note. I mean, I did an Ironman triathlon. One can't say that that's nothing. And I got married and I moved to another state and I figured out how to live on $26,000 a year. But all of the interesting things that have happened in my professional life, they only really started after I started taking risks. Before that, it was a whole lot of cooking shows on the Food Network and whatever the flavor of the month home reno show was. I was anesthetized. I tinkered, but actually executing on things and having those things make progress, none of that was really happening. And when I look back on the things that I created, they're not bad, but they're not great either. There wasn't a lot of focus. If you spend enough time listening to creative podcasts or reading current pop psychology, you'll be exposed to the work of Carol Dweck. A Stanford professor, her primary area of research has been on the growth mindset. Basically, it's the idea that we have the capacity to grow and change. Do you have a fixed amount of intelligence?
In my work, we find that kids and adults can have different mindsets about their basic talents and abilities. In a fixed mindset, children think their talents, abilities, intelligence are just fixed. They have a certain amount, and that's that. But other kids have a growth mindset. They don't think it's fixed. They think their abilities can be developed through practice, dedication, help, and good mentoring from others. They don't think everyone's the same or that anyone can be Einstein, but they think everyone can get smarter if they apply themselves. And these are the people who remain vehemently, vigorously engaged with learning, especially in the face of difficulty.
Is your capacity as an individual predetermined? Or are you able to influence your own mental performance through grit and continuing to work at something? I can't think about Dweck's work without thinking about the observer effect in physics. There's been a crisis in the scientific community over the past decade about the replication of results, particularly in the social and medical sciences. In a hard science like chemistry or mathematics, equations have answers. H2O is always going to be dihydrogen monoxide. It'll be water.
Can you pass me a glass of water, please?
But
Thank
you
you.
remember that dumb thing people would say, wondering whether a tree falling in the woods would make any sound? On a rational level, you might say, well, of course it makes a noise. It's falling. It's causing friction in the air. But if something isn't being observed, if we're not there to hear it, there's no way to prove that something happened without some sort of an observer. Even an instrument is observing an interaction. It's a conundrum. Some of Dweck's work has had a hard time being replicated. She's got her assertions for why that could be, and it's worth at least acknowledging that there's an element of faith to what she's talking about being true. But I don't know that it actually matters whether it's true, because I think that the assumption that it's true could end up forcing our brains to do an improvisational act as if exercise. You may have heard someone say, if you think you can't, you can't. That me that I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, who spent a lot of time watching other people make things, didn't know a lot of things at the time. The Ironman ended up being a much bigger deal than he may have thought when he first signed up. Initially, it was an excuse to do another long bike ride. Suddenly, there was a data point that if you spent a year training for something, you could do something that no one else you had known could do. There are few better things in life than being able to look at the jocks that gave you a hard time in high school and know that they couldn't survive 17 hours of running a marathon after you biked more than 100 miles. I'm sure we'll spend more time talking about that day because there are other lessons there, but going back to Carol Dweck, it was curiosity that even led to the race. It was grit and determination that led to finishing the race. But nothing happens unless there's both curiosity and grit. That's the catalyst. And maybe Dweck alters the entire equation by creating an observer effect. Suddenly, we're paying attention and curious, and we've radically altered how a system would have normally operated just because of the fact that we're aware. Whether our brains are malleable or not, that curiosity might end up helping our brain to, even if the capacity is static, better operate with what it does have. So let me ask again, what are you capable of? How are you digging into that? Do this for me. Take a deep breath. I really like square breathing. You breathe in for a count of 4. Then you hold it for a count of 4. Then you breathe out for 4 and you rest for 4. It's one of the only small meditative things that I've been able to make a regular thing. It's really great for resetting. And when I'm really stressed out, that 4x4 exercise can get me to a point where I can think more clearly. So let's do it. Just for a minute. And then I'll wrap up. So just follow me. I'm going to count to 4. So breathe in. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Breathe out. 2, 3, 4. Pause. 2, 3, 4. Okay, we're going to do 2 more. Breathe in. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Breathe out. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. And one last one. Breathe in. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. Breathe out. 2, 3, 4. And hold. 2, 3, 4. Now, while you're calm, I want you to spend a few minutes writing. I want you to think about you in a year, 5 years, 10 years. Who are you? What did you end up doing? What was it you wanted to be doing? I don't need you to overthink and don't force it, but let it sort of bubble up. Once you're done, take a look. What's the story you're telling yourself? I can't tell what you wrote, and I don't know what your dream is, but just based on my own experience, I think you have more capacity than you think you do. See beneath the surface. There is no system.